The NBA Finals are finally here, and today we're doing our Mavs Celtics Finals preview. Let's get into foul trouble.
We've made it.
We made it. I don't think we expected the Mavs at the beginning of the season, but here we are.
No, I mean, I didn't expect the Mavs I didn't expect the Mavs until maybe 2 weeks before the season ended. This turnaround is very Celtics in 22 coded in just the way that they've not only been able to up two of the top 6 slots in their playable roster, but also they've just completely transformed what we think of them as a team. Now they're just this big and great stout defense. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I was very high on the Mavs all season. I was super high on them after the trade deadline, but I still was okay, but I don't think they could beat Denver. They didn't even have to play Denver, so it didn't matter. I think the Celtics, we all expected them to be here. They were my preseason pick to make it to the finals. Or did I pick Milwaukee? I don't.
We would have to go check.
I don't want to boldly
honestly
proclaim that I called
remember.
this because I might not. I remember after that first game of the season, that Sixers-Bucks game, we were both like, oh my God, Damon Giannis as a combo. But the Bucks are long gone. We have the Celtics. We have the Mavericks.
The Bucks? Who are the Bucks? I can't even remember who the Bucks are. But so the Mavericks, they close out, between the last time we have spoken, they closed out the Minnesota Timberwolves, another kind of surprise team. Do you have any parting words?
I feel like
parting
we kind of already said goodbye to the Timberwolves when they were down 3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing new. I was surprised how much of a blowout Game 5 was.
Yeah, I felt like it was kind of, all the games had been so close. One of those was coming. I'm not going to act like I knew from which side because I think it was just so close throughout that series. It could have easily been, 3-1 Timberwolves. It could have easily been tied going into Game 5. But then Luka Doncic does his thing.
Yeah, pretty much outscored the Timberwolves by himself in the first quarter.
Yeah, 20 points on the road. And he just I think he gets fired up and it just has this level of competitiveness that is so rare to see out of these superstars.
Yeah, that one fan that was heckling him, I feel like Minnesota, you guys come on, man, take care of your own.
That guy
got to know better. And I feel like the Celtics fans are uniquely positioned to hurt their own team in this finals match.
The Celtics fans are going to be loud and screaming a lot of obscenities, not only at Luka Doncic, but definitely Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. On that note, it's funny, before Game 5, on the Timberwolves subreddit, there was a big popular post that it was people saying do not boo Luka tonight. Everybody was please do not boo him. You will only feed the flames. And then after Game 5, somebody posted, it was what did you guys do? You didn't listen and you fucking ruined it for us.
That would be such a crazy subplot of Luka's career if he makes it in vogue to cheer for him when he's on the road just out of fear that you're gonna
get
poke
torched.
the beast.
Okay, so the finals, it starts on Thursday night. So we are going to be recording our next podcast this week, Friday morning, to recap Game 1. So a little different with the schedule. But yeah, where do you want to start with this final series? I kind of, did some film study. I kind of broke it up into, when the Mavs have the ball, when the Celtics have the ball. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think the first question on my mind, it just kind of goes down to the Luka Doncic, Kyrie defensive, appointment. Who do you think is guarding Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to start this series?
So in their regular season matchup on March 1st, which is a weird matchup because both teams have all their guys, but the Mavericks are playing Daniel Gafford 6 minutes in that game. The starting lineup is different. It's really weird because it's the modern Mavericks, but it's just they're being played. Tim Hardaway's getting big minutes, which he hasn't in the playoffs.
Josh Green got huge minutes
it's such a weird, different lineup mechanism. But in that game, the Celtics started Jaylen Brown on Luka, and they put Tatum on Lively and Porzingis on PJ Washington, which was kind of that was the default, which I kind of like, PJ, especially in the regular season, was struggling as a shooter. In the playoffs, he had the good series versus OKC, kind of came back down to earth versus the Timberwolves. So I feel like PJ's shooting is going to be a big factor, especially since the Celtics basically designated him as the guy Porzingis can help off of, to defend the paint. I feel like they're going to start Jalen on Luka again, but because in that game, Derek White and Drew Holiday, they just can't guard Luka.
Yeah.
They just neither of them can guard Luka. They're both too. Even Drew is too small. Luka was getting layup lines every time he went at him. I noticed on the few possessions that Tatum was on Luka, they usually did try to switch it, but it seemed like I saw one possession where Luka was able to get to the rim against Tatum too. So I don't know. I think they're going to start with Jalen on him.
Yeah, I kind of ended in the place where it's especially in that game, Luka had a 35-point triple-double. I watched it yesterday too. And I think for my general strategy for the Celtics, I just think you start off switching as much as possible. See if you can guard Luka and Kyrie straight up. Do it as much as you can, at least to start out the series. And then if Luka is absolutely torching you on all these switches, that's when you get more in tune of maybe instead of Jason Tatum guarding Luka for the last 10% of the game, maybe that creeps up to 25%, and then maybe that creeps up to 50%.
Yeah, because it was one of these weird games too. Because this regular season game was pretty close until 4 minutes left in the third, and the Celtics kind of broke it up. The Celtics shot amazing from three in that game, which was a big factor in why the score,
especially Kristaps,
ballooned so much. But I did notice though the Celtics are a little tapped because when the Mavs are running these pick and rolls, and did it a lot with Washington to attack Porzingis and try to avoid getting Tatum involved in the pick and roll action. The Celtics did do a lot of not trapping, not blitzing, but a lot of oh shit, I'm going to try to fight over, but oh wait, Luka's going downhill, I got to help. And they got a lot of lobs to Lively and pocket passes to Lively.
Yeah, which brings in I feel like Kristaps is just going to be this huge question mark that we're going to talk about, and just in all NBA circles, that's going to be talked about all week. And it's what is he going to look like
because I imagine if he's back, I imagine the Mavs are going to attack him in pick and roll as much as they can, try to get him away from the paint. That's the thing that's tough, though, because I know they like to run it with Lively, but are they going to do the same thing where they're going to try to avoid getting Tatum involved in these actions? Or, I guess that's where I'm kind of curious with that. But I think if you're the Mavs, you probably feel pretty good about Luka in this series being able to get whatever kind of shots he wants. In that regular season game, he shot 11 of 16 from 2-point.
Yeah. No, he was getting literally wherever he wanted.
Yeah.
It's... it's hard to say. Do you think the Celtics are going to kind of dare Luka to beat them more, or dare the rest of the Mavericks?
I think the Celtics are going to place their bets on PJ not shooting well. And I think that's what we're going to see, especially game one. Porzingis on to PJ, offering a lot of help on all the pick and roll actions.
Yeah, which is kind of what we saw OKC do against Dallas.
And I think that's the one that's interesting for the Celtics is when they put Tatum onto Lively, because Tatum's pretty big, pretty strong, he can kind of hold his own there. And then it makes the Mavericks want to get PJ involved in the actions, but because they don't want, is if you involve PJ in the pick and roll action, you don't have to worry about him being the release valve for the jump shot. The problem is then Lively's not involved in the P&R, and he's kind of more in the dunker spot. So I think it is a little bit interesting, and I think in that sense the Celtics are kind of favored unless PJ can start hitting threes at a respectable rate and they go back to more of a Lively-centric pick and roll game.
Yeah, PJ Washington is still shooting 36% over the course of the playoffs. So even with that dip, we still saw him hit really, really big threes in this last series. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like if you're a Mavericks fan, you got to be feeling pretty good. I'm also interested to see I think the big man battle in this series is huge, especially Kristaps Porzingis being backed up by Al Horford is one thing, but if it ends up being more of a case of Al Horford being backed up by a shaky Kristaps Porzingis minutes because he's not just like in his body yet, and then spelled by some Sam Hauser minutes. I think then things get a little precarious against this Mavs team. I'm interested to see how Daniel Gafford, how effective he is. I think the goal there for the Celtics is going to be getting him to guard on the perimeter a lot, which we've seen a really mixed bag from him there.
Yeah, I think the Mavs are going to have to make it a point of emphasis to win the rebounding battle in this series.
Absolutely. Yeah, I pulled a stat. The Boston this season during the regular season was 43-6 when they won the rebounding battle, and then they've been 9-0 in the playoffs. Like Dallas had they're 8-2 when they win the rebounding battle in this playoffs. Like I don't think there's any stat that's more important than that right there. This Boston Celtics team cannot get second chance points.
Yeah, I think too, because the Celtics, I think this series is more interesting on the other side of the ball when the Celtics have the ball than when the Mavs do, because I think the Mavs, we kind of know what it's going to look like. It's going to look like Luka and Kyrie hunting the mismatch, hunting Porzingis, a lot of Luka pick and roll. The Celtics do play that kind of half help a lot on all these like superstar drives, so there's going to be just a lot of swing the ball around the perimeter possessions for the Mavs, and it's like I kind of already know what it's going to look like on offense for the Mavs. I also know what it's like. I feel like, you want anything else on the Mavs offense, like with Kyrie?
Not really. It's straightforward, like you said. It's like almost like quasi that 2018 Rockets of just like you're kind of living and dying by Luka, which you feel really good about.
Yeah.
And then if they start trapping him, then it's like Kyrie's making decisions with like a favorable matchup on him, and then you're also feeling really good.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to get a lot of switches for Kyrie so they can get Derek White and Drew off of him as much as they can. The Celtics with the ball is interesting. So I was kind of like the Mavericks' like big thing in this playoffs has been like this unreal ability to just not allow shots at the rim, and it's kind of weird because with the Celtics, they love to shoot a ton of threes. So, but I was kind of curious. So I went and rewatched the minutes where the Timberwolves were playing Naz Reid and Karl Towns together and see like how the Mavs guarded that, because this Celtics series is so different than it's going to be a whole new challenge for the Mavericks, because like in round one, Zubac. Okay, either they're going Zubac or they're going small. They don't have a big who can shoot. Round two, OKC, Chet can shoot, but like the OKC supporting cast was not shooting the ball well at all that whole series. Round three, most of the time Gobert was out there, so there was always that one non-spacing big. So I'm watching the minutes where it's like Reed and Towns to see like how they're going to guard it. And what the Mavericks were doing was they were hiding him on Kyle Anderson in those minutes. And a lot of those possessions for the Timberwolves did end with open threes when they played this really spaced out offense. The difference with the Celtics is there's no Kyle Anderson to hide on.
Yeah, all these guys.
So I noticed too, I was like, okay, so who are they putting Lively on? Are they putting him on the bigs? They were putting him on Anderson, but they were kind of also playing this like half zone where a lot of the times of like the ball's on the left wing, Lively's by the free throw line, and they're just having one guy kind of guard both the corner and the wing and just playing both. So I think the Celtics are going to get a lot of threes for Porzingis in this series. In their regular season game, Porzingis shot it 8 times. It felt like any time they ran a pick and fade, they got an open 3 out of it. So, it's kind of a weird series because I feel like it's going to come down to, if it's a close game, who shot the ball better between Porzingis and Washington. And like, I feel better about Porzingis in that.
Totally. Well, the other part of that is like, might sound a little counterintuitive, but if I'm the Mavericks, part of that strategy is like, I kind of want Jason Tatum to be chucking from 3. That's something that we saw the Pacers have a lot of success with. Even though they were swept, Jason Tatum did not shoot well from 3. He's shooting 29% on the playoffs thus far. And I think if you can funnel those threes going to Jason Tatum, going to a guy like Al Horford, you're willing to like live and die with the knees of the elderly Al Horford. And then like you've got Kristaps Porzingis, who like maybe comes in like sizzling, but he hasn't played in however long, a month. That's a scary proposition for Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, I think It is. I think another thing that it really like plays into the Celtics' favor, and I think this playoff has really showed us that like you can be really, really good at defense, but ultimately your body type will make you better at guarding certain players and not as good at guarding other players. Like we saw that a lot with the guy in the Timberwolves, Jalen McDaniels. But like with the Celtics though, like Derek Jones Jr. was awesome in like every series so far, like guarding, SGA, and he's like kind of quick, nimble, and athletic. I feel like this is going to be one of those things where even though he's a good defender, the body type matchup isn't really a good favor for him if he's going to be guarding Tatum.
Yeah, Tatum's so much stronger, such
taller,
a better rebounder.
Bigger. Yeah, so Washington's definitely going to be guarding Tatum, but I feel like even Jaylen Brown is going to be able to kind of not have his way, but I think Jaylen Brown will have more success against.
There's a strength.
Yeah.
And the athleticism is not like that big of a gap there.
Yeah. I think Jalen's going to have a little bit more success, and Washington obviously can't guard both of those guys. So I also wonder, though, for Luka, though, like this might be a series where Luka really has to step up and play some defense on like a Jaylen Brown because like body type wise, like he's the kind of guy where, yeah, Jalen can beat him with quickness, but like Luka's big and strong, and like with Jalen, you're trying to take away the rim.
Totally. So who do you think the Mavericks put Luka on at the start of this series?
I'm gonna guess Drew.
I think like Drew's probably the right decision.
He's the most hesitant offensive player on their team.
What made me a little nervous about putting Luka on a ball handler is it's so easy then to just get Luka in every single action. Which I would be like trying to deter against. And then that bears the question, like, should Luka be on Kristaps? But then that puts the Mavericks big on, either a ball handler or Tatum or Brown. And that is why the Celtics are so freaking good because they're so freaking deep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the really weird thing that the Mavericks could try if they're going to be like, okay, you know what, we put the big on the guy who we are like least confident in is like they could maybe do like a Derek Lively on Drew Holiday so he can play heavy help, but Drew Holiday's been shooting the ball. I think, Drew Holiday's been shooting the ball about 40% in these playoffs. Like last year's playoffs, 29%. The year before, 31%. The year before that, 30%. So Drew has historically been a pretty awful three-point shooter in the playoffs. But I don't know. Do you want to risk it this year? I think part of the reason he's shooting better is also shot quality on this team is a lot higher.
Yeah, the role could not be more different than what he was dependent on in Milwaukee. But yeah, that's why it's so precarious. It's weird. This series is so weird because I don't think it's even close who has the better player, like best player in the series. That goes to Luka.
But best overall roster. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably should we do a quick ranking the players in this series?
Sure.
Okay, I'll take the first pick, Luka.
Tatum.
Kyrie. Who am I taking? Jaylen Brown or Kyrie?
I think this playoff version of Kyrie and Jaylen Brown, you could say, are equal.
Yeah. So next to Jaylen Brown, Kyrie
in any order. Yeah, in whatever order you prefer.
And then
for the Celtics, I mean, you could choose
Derek
White or Porzingis.
I forgot about Porzingis. Or Drew. But those are probably the next three choices there, right?
Well, I don't know. Derek Lively has literally just made it so other teams can't shoot at the rim. That is like an infinitely crazy valuable skill set. I would say, honestly, he might be in this series, with all the Celtics' amazing defenders, Lively might be the most impactful defender for either team.
Yeah, you know what I was so surprised by in the Western Conference Finals specifically was Derek Lively's ability to switch even onto Ant on the perimeter and just survive for like 5 seconds.
I think Lively might be like a generational defender, and he's a rookie, so
yeah,
we don't want to say that yet. Rookie. But like as a rookie, this is like the best defensive rookie season I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, what was my whole thing against the Mavs coming into the season was like, this team is supposed to be like a playoff team with a rookie center. And I mean,
he's the best defender in the playoffs.
He's the best defender in the playoffs. Who knew?
Yeah. I do think for this series though, and I don't really like how I feel like a lot of post like 2015 basketball analysis really just comes down to like, did they hit their threes or did they not hit their threes? But I feel like the Celtics are going to be able to generate a lot of open threes.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Like I don't
absolutely.
like I think like, and I think like there will be games where we're like, man, they really didn't get anything going at the rim. How did they got to force the issue to the Mavs more? But then there will also be games where like, wow, the Celtics hit 24 threes last night.
Yeah, well, also it's like I feel like the Celtics have more favorable like one-on-one matchups than a lot of what the Timberwolves had. So they're going to be able to supplement scoring at the rim with more transition buckets in a way that I think the Timberwolves that we thought the Timberwolves were going to be able to do, but they really weren't able to successfully do throughout that series. So I think like yeah, they're not going to be able to get to the rim a lot because that's kind of what makes this Dallas Mavericks team so special. But I don't know if it will matter as much as at least as it did in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah. So do you have anything else for this series, or what is your?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one other thing that I guess I wanted to kind of talk about was just the role players on each team. Like, are there any guys that you see pass, or I don't know, just other than the obvious stars that it's like, oh, this is a blank series, or this is definitely not a blank series.
Oh, like this guy won't play?
Like this guy is set up for failure. This
okay.
guy is set up for success in these series.
I mean, I think the Celtics bigs, Porzingis is obviously a star, but I think Horford is set up for success. Like, I really think this is going to be a series where both Horford and Porzingis are shooting a lot of open, semi-open threes. I think, I don't know. I think this is going to be really annoying for the Tatum discourse, but I don't think Tatum has to have a crazy good series for the Celtics to win.
Yeah, offensively, I'm with you. I don't think he needs to be, 30 points a game.
I think for Tatum, it's like if he can just get the Mavericks in recovery mode, which I think he'll be able to with a lot of these one-on-one matchups, I think that'll go a long way for them.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that I look at and I'm like, it's not a series for you is Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard has been a really big part of this Celtics playoff run, but I don't think he is a viable option in this series at any point when Luka is on the court. I just think it's like so easy. We saw it in that March 1st game. It's weird how Luka like plays almost like it's the playoffs in the regular season and just like hunting all these mismatches. But every single time they were on the court together, it felt like Luka, if he missed, you were surprised because he was getting such great shots whenever Peyton Pritchard was running around. And in the same way, I feel like this is not really a Maxi Kleber series. I think he just like flows into what the Celtics want to do so easily that.
Although I will say, I think it could be a Kleber series in the event that Tatum is just, or Brown is just having their way. And they're like, or like, let's say Brown's having his way with Derek Jones Jr. And they're like, okay, PJ, you have to guard Jaylen Brown. And now Kleber, because you're a kind of a, decent perimeter defender, you have size and you can shoot theoretically. I don't know. He seemed really hesitant when he came back. Like, you have to come in and guard Tatum and we're going to play a little bit bigger now.
Yeah,
I think that's the scenario where you see Kleber minutes.
If you're not, if the Mavericks aren't turning off the faucet at the rim, I guess I see that as well. But it's definitely a very 21st century basketball series.
Yeah,
if there ever has been one.
It's such a weird final. There's not a lot of history with their teams. I mean, I know the Mavs are like a completely different team. The Celtics have kind of handled them the last couple regular season games, going back a couple years now.
But then you look at like the early Luka versus Boston games, and Luka starting off his career was 5-2 against the Celtics, and those were really good
teams,
Celtics teams and not that great of Mavericks teams.
I don't know why. Like the more I think about this series, I think it's going to be really hard for Dallas.
Yeah.
So I just think a lot of these games are going to come down to like who's role players, who's player. The thing is like the Celtics like legitimately have like 5 all-stars in their starting lineup, and the Mavericks have 2.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, so it's like who's going to hit more shots, the Celtics stars or the Mavericks role players? Because I don't know. I feel like both teams are going to be able to generate a good amount of open looks for their perimeter guys and their bigs, but yeah, I mean,
There's so much experience here too with the Celtics. You know, the last 2 series that we saw against the Timberwolves and against the Thunder, they're just like, they weren't decisive, either one of those teams, in what they wanted to do. Even when they were at their most successful, I felt like it was because their stars were being so incredible. The Celtics don't have to win that way.
yeah.
Which is such a boon for the Celtics.
Yeah, I think the one thing I do like for the Mavs, though, and it's kind of the thing we talked about all year, and I know the numbers say otherwise, but man, if it's like a 2-point game with 2 minutes left, I kind of like the Mavs a lot more in those circumstances. So I almost feel like the Celtics kind of have to try to go up big on all these third quarters and fourth quarters.
You're so right, dude. Oh, you're so right. I mean, you can't close your eyes to what just happened from Luka. Luka hit a game-winning shot in the last series. He basically hit a game-winning shot in the Thunder series. Like, this is the most elite closer that we have in our game today. I think I'm pretty comfortable saying. And then you've got Kyrie, who only hit like the
biggest shot in
NBA history.
Yeah. So what is your prediction?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm definitely sticking with the Celtics. I picked the Celtics before the playoffs. I think this is a really special team. You know, coming into this playoffs, they have a plus 900 point differential, or they have a plus 1,071 point differential, which would be by far the best team to not win the title. And I think stats like that matter. This team is 6-0 on the road. They've been amazing in the road in the playoffs. So I'm picking the Celtics. I'm kind of stuck whether to pick them in 6 or 7. It feels like they wouldn't win if it went to a game 7.
If it goes to 7, I am not going to pick them. If you told me it goes to 7, I'd pick the Mavs.
And so I think about that, and then I'm like, should it be Celtics in 5? And I'm like, that seems
unfair.
Ridiculous, yeah. That this Mavericks team, as good as they have been, only make it to 5 games. But I'm also telling myself that this Celtics team is like this historically amazing team. So I'm Celtics in 6. I'm kind of hedging my bets.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple games in the series where the Celtics go cold. And I think this could be one of those weird series where like every game is a blowout.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mavs haven't really blown. I know the last game have not really blown teams out. I feel like the Mavs offense this whole playoffs has been a little like underwhelming, even though they keep winning. And I feel like they've really been winning with defense. So maybe the Mavs are not going to be blowing out the Celtics. But I feel like in the games the Celtics win, it'll be like that regular season game where it's like, oh, it's a close game with 2 minutes left in the third. Oh, wow. Porzingis just hit 2 threes and Jaylen Brown just got an and one. All of a sudden they have a 9-point lead.
Yeah.
I also am leaning Celtics in 6.
Yeah, it's just, it makes sense. Like
it's
not fun, but they've been the best team in the league by a country mile all season, and they've been nothing short of dominant in these playoffs.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't doubt the Mavs. I think the Mavs could definitely win this series. I think like the way the Mavs win this series is like Lively takes away the rim. And I think for the Celtics, taking away the rim really means you're taking away a lot of Jaylen Brown's offense. Mm-hmm. I think if you can take away a lot of Jaylen Brown's offense, try to make Tatum play a lot more ISO at PJ.
Get Tatum in love with that step back 3.
Just like I think the strategy really might be play straight up, don't help, don't let them make you have to be in rotation, and just like trust your isolation defense. Trust that, like I think that's the thing. The Mavericks just have to really live with like Tatum going for 40 some games.
Yeah. Which is like,
the way
the Celtics really going to lose if Tatum goes for 40?
Yeah, it's this thing. It's just I think the Mavericks just really have to avoid giving up too many like wide open Porzingis threes on pick and like they just have to avoid.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge thing too.
Yeah.
That like we have no freaking idea what Kristaps Porzingis is going to look like right now. If he looks bad, if he's
'cause I will
hobbling up
say,
the court,
in a series
completely
where,
different series.
In a series where like there's more than 15 minutes from a non-Porzingis, non-Horford center who's not able to spread the floor, I really like the Mavericks all of a sudden.
See, in that case, I'm like, put Tatum at center. Like,
Yeah.
make him be your superstar. Make him do his like young Magic Johnson impression of like, go out muscle Derek Lively. Go. That's the one thing that all Tatum lovers always harp on is like, oh, he's such a great rebounder. Like, there you go, Tatum. Go do it on the biggest
I feel
stage.
like that's a little bit of an unfair ask for Tatum, but yeah, I mean that's what it takes to
you gotta
win the
win
NBA
a
Finals.
championship.
Yeah, you got to win the NBA Finals. So we both going Celtics in 6. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Hey.
The boys stand
totally
up, but yeah, that's
understand
where
that.
I'm at. Max, what do you think?
I gotta root for the Celtics in this series. I've never in my life rooted for the Celtics.
But what does your head say?
Like, what's actually going to happen?
Yeah.
I do have a feeling that the Celtics team, this Celtics team, will pull it out, especially if Kristaps is like looking good. Yeah, I have to believe that like PJ and Derek Lively are going to like be revealed as
PJ Washington and Derek Lively. It's
I
like
just-
the Scooby-Doo, you unmask them.
Derek Lively has been good from the jump though, so I don't know.
Or I meant Derek Jones Jr.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're
right.
saying.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be flat out bad, but I feel like some of the like, some of the juice has to run dry at some point on these guys. I don't know. I could be so wrong and eat my words about that, but you know, it's the finals.
Or the juice might go dry for Drew Holiday because we've looked at it's just like he's never even shot like 32%. He's up to like 40.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they just tied Suns. They taped Suns logos to the back of all their practice players' jerseys, and he thinks he's in the finals again.
Yeah.
So, okay, Luka Doncic. Let's say he wins a championship.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means that the thing we talked about earlier, that this might be a new age where heliocentric stars are a real thing. Could really be true.
Yeah, that's a super weird and very like consequential thing that we would learn there.
Yeah, because I think that like this would truly be the first heliocentric star to win a championship. Because I think people would say LeBron, but even like 2016 LeBron has a usage rate in like 32. Like Luka is like close to 40. Like there's actually a huge gap in the heliocentric nature of LeBron and Luka's games, and like. I mean, in that sense, it would honestly be one of the most impressive championships ever, just because it would statistically be the biggest individual load a single player has ever had on a championship team.
Yeah, it is interesting. I totally agree with what you're saying, but they've had so much success this postseason, and this postseason, by far, Luka's lowest usage percentage of any postseason. His previous 37% usage rate, 40%, then 32% this year. So I mean, yes, that's still a huge usage rate, but it's definitely
But it is
like
more
a
in that
tick
LeBron
down.
realm.
Yeah.
And I think part of that too is the blitzing from the T-Wolves. A lot of that. But yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I guess that's part of it though. Like it is almost impossible to win with that high of a usage rate. I think for Luka too, it also does cement him as one of the best offensive perimeter players the game's ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably cements him as the second best player in the league right now.
Yeah, I'd still have him. I'd still have Jokic one, but yeah, I think Luka is. I honestly don't know what Luka could do to not be number 2 heading into next year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be completely disintegrate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I think Luka is that good. So for me, him winning the championship or not this year doesn't really change the way I view him, but I think the way it might make the general public view him is maybe different.
Yeah. No, I see that. And then what would it mean for, you can take this either way you want, for Jason Tatum or for just this Celtics team to win a championship?
I don't know what it would mean. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what it would really mean. I think of all the championship teams we have in the last 5 years, because we've had this run of like teams where it's like, whoa, like Denver's going to be the next dynasty. Milwaukee's going to be the next dynasty. This LeBron AD is going to be the next big thing. The Warriors are not really gone. And I think like, I guess of any championship team, I think this Celtics team, if they were to win, more than the Mavericks, if they were to win, is better positioned to actually have a 3-4 year run here where it's like they could win another one, just because like the Jays are young, the team is together, and they would have finally gotten over the hump. Because I mean, the big question we have for this team isn't really the talent of the players. It's just like why does it always seem to get a little dicey?
Yeah.
And if they overcome that, then I don't know if it means they'll be that forever, but I think, they're I don't know, in a good position to like have a really strong run, which they've already been on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a way for like Tatum to really even put himself in like the top 5 player conversation for me, even if they win this championship. But I do think if the Celtics win this championship, we could look back at this Celtics year and this Celtics roster as one of the better teams in NBA history if they're able to put it together. And that's without like winning multiple titles. I think we could look back at this team as like somewhat of like a mid-'80s Sixers team, like when they got Moses Malone, a team that was just flooded with talent, flooded with Hall of Fame talent, but needed that like extra punch to get over the top, which is like not saying nothing. I think that's like super high esteem for this team, but I will push back a little bit. I don't really see like dynasty potential with this team just because of how flooded with talent
the NBA is.
But it's weird that I feel like this year, opposed to other years, especially in the recent past, it feels right for both of these teams to be here. It was like Luka was going to be here eventually. Yeah. We just didn't know which year it was going to be. And this Celtics team is just like over and over and over again, they prove to us they're a playoff team. Whether they're a championship team or not, they're a playoff team that can rattle off wins in the playoffs, which is hard to do.
Okay, I have 2 fun questions then before we get to best take, worst take. If Jason Tatum wins the title this year,
okay,
who is the greater all-time Celtic, him or Paul Pierce?
I mean, I'm going Jason Tatum.
Okay, and if Luka Doncic wins the finals this year, who's the better all-time Maverick, him or Dirk Nowitzki?
I mean, if the world ends
the day after the finals,
I got to go with Dirk. There's 2 finals appearances there. There's just way too much history, but Luka is definitely making a path in a way that like is kind of fucking crazy to even think, because Dirk was just so good. Dirk was so good. I mean, it not only opens a path to best Maverick of all time, best European player of all time. I mean, of course, Jokic is right there too, but like that becomes a possibility once Luka Doncic starts winning championships. I mean, from a historic standpoint, it was kind of a disaster for Luka to miss the playoffs last year, but to respond in the way that he did kind of puts everything back in play.
Yeah. No, it's I guess I just thought about that funny dichotomy there.
No, yeah. I mean, who would you say, Jason Tatum or Paul Pierce?
It's so tough. I feel like I guess Tatum. I think Tatum, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be the better player. I mean, he's a more well-rounded player. He's already, I think, has just as much pretty much playoff success as Paul Pierce had. But the one big difference is Jason Tatum's the best player on his team that are in the finals. Paul Pierce couldn't say that, I don't think.
Yeah, he did win Finals MVP though.
Yeah, that's true. But
I will say to Pierce's credit, as a young NBA fan who, when I first became a fan, like 08, 09, 07 territory, I wasn't watching before that. So I didn't really know about like Allen in Seattle or KG in Minnesota. And I will say, as a young, impressionable fan, he always did seem like the leader / best player on their team.
True. I mean, I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. Did you see Paul Pierce was like, I hear all these people saying Kyrie and Luka are the most clutch duo of all time. No way. That's me and Ray Allen. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
He was clutch.
Paul Pierce
was fucking clutch, bro.
But I feel like his most clutch moments
We're like
Right.
on the Wizards and the Nets. He hit so many game winners when he was on
No.
those two teams.
I mean, yes.
He didn't have a game winner with the Clippers too?
I
he
think
did.
so, yeah. But it was also, a lot of it was like early 2000s. Paul Pierce was like this super clutch guy. And then Ray Allen, like, he was clutch. But like, I feel like you've got that one clutch moment with the Heat that is like way clutcher than Ray Allen was at any other point in his career. I gotta give that mantle to Luka and Kyrie right now.
Did you know that one of Drew Holiday's nicknames is the Druth?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I
hate that.
Is this the second coming of Paul Pierce?
The Druth, yeah.
Yeah, the Druth. We got the truth and the Druth.
That's so funny.
All-time Celtics backcourt.
2 LA guys.
Ooh.
Both in Boston.
All right, best
That's
take,
so
worst
funny.
take.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a hard time finding both a best take and a worst take this week, surprisingly. I have a worst take. I don't feel like it's that bad. I could not find a best take.
Do you guys want to round up the last month's worst takes?
Oh, we do need to do that. Yes,
Yeah,
let's round those
I have
up.
those
that
ready
first.
for you guys if you want it. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that first.
So I opened up my iPhone note where I keep all these worst takes. It stinks. Like you can
I
smell
bet.
it through the phone.
Yeah, I can smell it over here.
Yeah, it's nasty. Okay, so Brandon Jennings. I think Malik Monk is better than Donovan Mitchell.
Hell yeah.
Bill Simmons. I think the T-Wolves might be losing because Chris Finch is sitting on the bench.
Sneaky horrible take.
Such a good Bill Simmons take.
Tatum. They say we're a super team, but we're not rewarded like a super team.
That was a bad take.
Matt Ishbia. We're in a great position.
Oh my God, this is a great month.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to vote for Brandon Jennings, who says Malik Monk is better than Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I'll go there too. Part of me wants to go with Matt Ishbia here because it's such, but they're all bad takes.
They're all horrible.
They're all bad
This is
takes.
an awful month for takes.
And I like the confidence, Matt. I like the confidence. That's what we need going into this offseason. So, Brandon Jennings.
Worst take.
Congratulations, man. So I actually had two options for my best take of the week.
Ooh, can you give me one?
Yeah, you can have either one of
take
these. So my first one was Jeff Teague saying something that like NBA players never ever say something like this. He said, Chris Paul is just as good as Allen Iverson. In his career is better than his career is better than Allen Iverson's. I completely agree. Like, I think that's a great take.
I think it's a good
You
take.
only hear about the like crossover legend Allen Iverson. You know what? There was a lot of like shit. Like, I think if Allen Iverson was going through his career arc today, he would have a lot of the Russell Westbrook haters on him in a way that he just didn't have when he went through his career. I thought that was a really good take. And then my other best take goes to Anthony Edwards because I found out he chose not to participate in the Inside the NBA interviews, standing in solidarity with Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert against the criticism from Draymond Green. I think that's awesome.
It is crazy because when the T-Wolves won Game 4, I was like, wait a second. Like, they've just bashed Cat and Gobert, especially Gobert, so much. Like, if I'm a T-Wolves player, like, what am I going to do? Go up there and talk to Draymond as if he never said any of that shit? And then when it never happened, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fists next year when the Timberwolves play the Warriors.
Yeah.
But I thought that was awesome. That is what you do when you're a leader. Like,
Yeah, no, he's definitely a leader.
I thought that was a great take. I don't know of the two which I like better as the best take, but we don't award best takes.
Yeah, we don't award best takes. We only reward horrible takes. And my worst take is going to one of your best takes.
Oh, okay.
Anthony Edwards. Oh, no. Who, after Game 3 of the Mavericks Timberwolves series, told Mike Conley, quote, I still don't feel like they can beat us.
Loses 3 times, still don't feel like they can beat us. Lose 3 times in a row.
I was wondering with some of that stuff because there was also the quote where he was like, I mean, nobody in the locker room is panicking. I'm not panicking. And I'm like, is that just like you talking a tough game? Or like, you should be panicking.
Yeah, you should be panicking.
Please panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad one. Mine went to Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if you saw this one. He said, I'm just talking about basketball analysts out there who praise Kawhi Leonard so much. I'm really sick of y'all. He is a superstar when healthy. I can make a case. This is the worst superstar in the history of sports, which I think is freaking insane.
I debated making that my best take.
Best take? Why?
Bro, how much is he getting paid?
Dude, I don't care.
He hasn't played in the postseason.
He's a super. So many superstars have won jack shit. This dude won 2 finals. Even take away the Spurs one. He dragged a Raptors team to win their first finals in franchise history. I would be fine with the Suns having a guy that brought us to our first championship on the books for $50 million a year for the next 2 decades. A Bobby Bonilla contract.
But he didn't bring the Clippers there. He brought the Raptors there. The Clippers have paid him like $500 million for him to watch playoff games courtside.
Yeah, well, shit like that happens.
But
that doesn't mean he's a bad superstar.
He doesn't play
because he have degenerative knee issues. He's a bad superstar.
But they signed him to a gigantic max extension. He's never playing.
I mean,
he's getting
bad
paid
luck
to watch the game.
It's bad luck, but does that mean he is not a superstar, not a Hall of Famer? No.
But I'm talking strictly from a Clippers perspective.
Okay, well, he didn't say anything
for his whole
about
career. Yeah, he's 100% a bona fide superstar, Hall of Famer. But for the Clippers, he's the worst superstar ever.
There's something to be said about getting them to the playoffs every year, though.
Yeah.
As if Paul George couldn't do that?
I mean, we've seen a couple of years where Paul George hasn't done that.
The Clippers have never missed the playoffs during this whole stretch, even with Kawhi Leonard.
That's not
missing a ton
true.
of games.
They lost in the play-in, but I don't know if I'd call that the playoffs. And they've been in the play-in year after year after year.
They've only been in the play-in once.
No, I think they've been in the play-in
just that one year. I think
2 times, 2-3 times.
I remember.
The year they missed and the year they played the Suns. Or the first time?
No, only once. Just the year they lost to the T-Wolves.
But I don't know. I think that's crazy.
I didn't make it my best take because I was like, okay, well, he has accomplished the things you've said. But purely from a Clippers perspective, I think he is the league's
You know
worst
what?
superstar.
I would argue even not the Clippers. The Clippers, right after Bill Walton won a championship, guess who they traded for? Bill Walton. Bill Walton missed 4 years. Didn't play a single game. Played 14 games in 5 years. That, in my opinion, that's worse.
Okay, well, I won't
disrespect
besmirch Bill. I won't
Walton.
besmirch Bill on this week, but I will say Patrick came with the facts, and I will amend my opinion to second worst Clippers superstar of all time.
Damn, that's rough. That is rough.
No, I mean, you came with the facts. I can't dispute that.
I just think the hyperbole is disrespectful. I mean, worst superstar ever.
I know. What does that even mean?
What about Zion Williamson?
Yeah. That's a great call. What has Zion Williamson done? What about Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, I don't want to go there.
What about Karl Anthony Towns?
So, it's weird because Kawhi Leonard is very clearly in a higher tier than Carmelo and Zion.
Sure.
So he's respected to be called a superstar.
Okay.
So if you're the worst superstar, you're still a superstar.
Damn.
I guess,
Kinda deep.
But what is a superstar?
I don't think it was well intentioned.
So is what you didn't want to say is Carmelo Anthony a superstar? Is that what you pulled your punch from saying, James?
I played the fifth.
Yeah, we can discuss that over the off season of who is a superstar. I'll give it to Anthony Edwards. I don't mind.
I'll give it to Stephen A. Smith so Max can break the tie.
Thank you. Yeah, Stephen A. Smith gets it.
There
All
we
right,
go.
there we go. All right, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you on Friday after game 1. Peace.